This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on sportstalksc.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in. Friday edition of Sports Talk Media Network. Great to have you with us. Great to be here. There was a point today when I wasn't sure who else was out cutting the grass, edging the yard, hedging the hedges between 12:30 and like 2:30 today. Anybody else doing that today? In 95-degree heat? It was corn versus nature. That's how I look at it. I went mano a mano with Mother Nature, and Mother Nature won. Because after about 2 hours, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not pushing this thing anymore. The rest of it can wait. So it's hot out there. I pity anybody doing the heavy lifting today. 95, 98 degrees. Heavy humidity. Great time to be at the beach.
Indeed. Yeah, I rolled past. I had to go get my haircut yesterday, and the parking lot where the haircut place I use is being repaved. And I was thinking, good grief. That is one job I would not want to deal with, either on asphalt, on the roads, or be a roofer at this time of year.
My goodness, absolutely.
I don't envy those people at all.
Couldn't pay me enough. All right, it's Friday, so it's kind of a loosey-goosey night. Mike Morgan joins us 6:35. We'll get his thoughts on the College World Series Championship Series, which begins tomorrow night. Tennessee and Texas A&M should be an excellent series, but you never know with baseball. Whoever has the hot guy on the mound usually is the team that walks away with the dub. We'll talk about that and other things happening nationally with the college scene that Mike will have some comments on. 7:20 or so, Jeff Owens will join us in the fast lane talking NASCAR as they go racing at New Hampshire this weekend. And 7:35, Birdies, Bogeys, and Biceps brought to you by Tsunami Bar Sports. And George Bryan III will have a special guest, the new golf coach at the University of South Carolina, Rob Bradley. So we're looking forward to having him with us for the first time. Our phone number, 888-898-2525. That is the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number for you to reach us here on Sports Talk. A lot of news notes to catch you up on. We'd like to catch up on those during this portion of the program so that you are ensured of having all the news notes of the day right there for you. And it's the last weekend of recruiting for this time of the year, Chris. We have the much desired, much anticipated, much beloved dead period beginning on Monday. So last weekend for official visits. We'll go over all of that. We have a very lengthy, detailed recruiting report for you with who's visiting South Carolina this weekend, where the other Clemson and USC targets are visiting this weekend, and other news notes. We'll have that coming up for you a little bit later on. And we've got the College World Series Championship Series beginning tomorrow night, Texas A&M and Tennessee. You think it's going to be – would you expect this to be high scoring, a lot of home runs and a lot of runs, or do you think the teams have good enough pitching to keep the scoring to a minimum?
I think you'll see some runs scored. I mean, you're talking about a Tennessee team that leads the country in home runs this season. I can't imagine that's going to stop in the way Christian Moore has been swinging the bat. And Texas A&M has been putting up runs. The sidebar to them is they've gotten outstanding pitching thus far at the CWS, but I'm not sure they've faced an offense quite as potent as Tennessee. So I would imagine you're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 8-6 type ball games as opposed to 4-2.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I tell you, television viewership for the College World Series has been excellent. They are raising the bar as far as that is concerned for the College World Series. So people have been very excited. 1.2 million average viewers, second best pre-finals viewership for ESPN since they took it over. The the game with the biggest TV audience was the Texas A&M Florida game at 1.8 million viewers. So 1.7 for North Carolina and Tennessee. So sounds like people are really into the college baseball World Series this time around, and let's hope the teams can put on a good show beginning tomorrow.
Now, the baseball has been outstanding, Phil, but to see, considering it's in one corner of the United States where all 8 teams reside, and to see the baseball, I mean, College World Series has been going on a long, long time, and for this to be the second most watched pre-finals viewership on record, I'm starting to buy into what you've said about TV ratings. I think there's a lot more to being able to gamble on games and betting online and the whole 9 yards that are actually pumping up the viewership, because I just don't see fans in Montana tuning in to watch Florida and Texas A&M play.
Yeah.
I just don't. Unless you went to school there or have some sort of affiliation with the two schools. Yeah, I can't imagine just the average college baseball fan is tuning in, but I guess they are.
That's what it's got to be. It's the only thing I can think of as to why TV viewership across the board is up. Women's sports, women's basketball, women's everything. And the same thing on the men's side. I mean, everything is up across the board. And the one big change to everything is the live betting. You can put a bet down on whether somebody's going to make a free throw, I guess, or is this team going to score 15 or more points in this quarter. You can get a bet down on all of that. So that's got to be the reason for it. And, I hope that we're not creating a whole new generation of delinquents who are spending all their money, gambling on these games and going to be broke by the time they're 30. But you better be careful, because you might fall into that boat if you don't get a handle on things.
The only other avenue that it could be is it's now easier with all the different platforms, whether it be streaming, cable, whatever the case may be, to actually count viewers and figure out the viewership. Maybe we're just getting more accurate viewerships, and we may have had these kind of numbers for years and they just miscounted. Those are the only two reasons I can apply to this, because I just don't see fans across the country getting all that excited about the College World Series, considering it's a Southeastern sport right now.
Yeah. You're right. Let's see, other things to talk about tonight. Coastal Carolina made it official. Former USC and Liberty pitching coach and upstate native Matt Williams, new pitching coach at Coastal Carolina. So didn't take him very long to find a spot going to Coastal Carolina. That's a good hire, and he'll do well there.
He was actually at Chance Miller's press conference on Tuesday. I bumped into him.
Yeah, I think he'll do an excellent job there.
I think you're right.
The city of Charlotte is eyeing a new football stadium to replace Bank of America Stadium, 2046. So like 20 years down the road. Negotiations are expected to start by April the 1st, 2037. All right, this makes no sense to me. Charlotte City Council will vote on $650 million in renovations to the current stadium on Monday. So, okay, that's cool. So, I mean, how can you sit here today in 2024 and decide that 22 years from now we're going to want a new stadium? I mean, what if you need a new stadium in 2034, 10 years from now?
Well, the problem I'm having with this, and it's typical of the Panthers and David Tepper, who clearly has no idea what he's doing as an owner of an NFL franchise. They just announced, the Panthers did, a couple of weeks ago, that they were going to throw $650 million at Bank of America to renovate the stadium. Going to redo the entire landscape on the outside, redo much of the stuff on the inside as well. So if you're already planning to do that, what in the world are you then turning around and saying, in 20 years, that's going to be outdated, so let's start looking ahead at a new stadium in 2046?
Of course, when it comes to a guy like David Tepper, whose worth is what, in the multiple billions?
It is.
So, I mean, I think to you and the rest of us, $650 million would take quite a piece of a bite out of our budget. He probably doesn't. That's to him, that's lunch money. He's not going to miss that, considering he probably makes that in a week or a month. But I just find it interesting that they're planning 20-something years down the road to build a new stadium, with the city starting to negotiate with Tepper Sports and Entertainment by April 1st of 2037. The new stadium would be located inside the city, according to the proposal. A new funding source may be necessary for the new stadium, according to the deal. That could mean funding from the state. The city says it will negotiate the use of hospitality funds for studies and analysis regarding the new stadium. Okay, so keep an eye on that over in Charlotte. And
my guess is there are plenty of fears, and there have been ever since David Tepper bought the team, that he wanted to move them out of Charlotte.
Exactly.
Maybe this is the only way Charlotte and Mecklenburg County can figure out to keep the Panthers in tow. They just keep throwing bad money after bad money to keep a bad product on the field and keep renovating the stadium, at least upgrade right now, and then go ahead and start looking ahead to building a new one in 20 years.
Yeah. Maybe he'll move them to Fort Mill. The Fort Mill Panthers. Move them to Fort Mill, build a stadium over there. This was kind of interesting, and this gives you a little bit of an insight as to what's going to be happening with college budgets all around the country. Louisville, this is written by Eric Crawford, who is a sports journalist for television station WDRB. I guess that's in Louisville. And so the Louisville Athletics Association meeting, and he writes the following. Football ticket sales generated $26.2 million. Men's basketball ticket sales, they came up $1.9 million short of their budget. Surprise, surprise, lousy team.
Yeah, not surprised, as bad as they were.
ACC legal costs have cut into the money provided. Think about that. I guess these schools in the ACC fight against Florida State and Clemson, I'm guessing the other schools are contributing to the ACC's legal defense fund? I don't know.
It's an interesting question. Do Clemson and Florida State have to contribute to that as well, because they are still current members of the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Yeah. The ACC Network studio on campus exceeded revenue projections by $400K. The university provided a contribution of $5 million to offset significant one-time costs. $1.5 million over budget on travel costs. They paid off basketball coach Kenny Payne with a buyout of $3.4 million. Let's see what else we got here that's kind of interesting. Pat Kelsey's buyout will be his Charleston buyout was $1.1 million, so they paid that. Their credit card fees, they were $540,000 over budget on credit card fees. Sounds like some people I know. They spent $400,000 on the ACC championship game. This is all in their budget. Now, this caught my attention. So, as is listed here, budget challenges for next season. They have only 6 home football games. Louisville does. Losing the Indiana football game replaced with Jacksonville State. That's probably going to hurt them. 6 road trips to California. Okay, here you go. I mean, these teams in the East, they're going to have to go to California. Multiple teams, multiple times. And that's going to come out of your budget. Evolution of NCAA rules, more family members on recruiting visits, etc., costing more money. Also, inflation. So that's some of their concerns at Louisville about their upcoming budget. But think about Clemson. Like Louisville, as the Tigers release their various sports schedules, we're going to see how many teams have to go out to play Cal, have to go out to play Stanford, and how many times you're going to have to make those trips. I mean, that's going to cut significantly into your budget, I would say, over a period of time.
I would agree. I mean, there's no other way around that. You've still got to pay for that travel. You've got to get there. You've got to take, probably 60, 65 scholarship football players, not to mention staff, and then all the equipment and everything else they've got to get out there. This is not an easy thing. And then you roll into basketball and volleyball and baseball season. Yeah, that's good. That is something I'm sure that the ACC kind of knew was coming, but they didn't care because they wanted to make sure they were still viable for football. And they really probably don't care about what the other sports have to go through.
Well, and Clemson avoided that this year. Going out there, but they're not going to be able to avoid that forever. That's going to come home to roost at at some point in time. Oklahoma's Board of Regents today approved a 6-year, $46.05 million new contract for Brent Venables that will run through the 2029 season. All right, so he's cashing in as Oklahoma joins the SEC this year. What does this tell us here in particular? Venables received a new 6-year deal worth $51.6 million that will keep him there through 29. He'll earn an average of $8.6 million annually for the duration of the contract. Not as much as Dabo. That's not bad money if you can get it.
No.
And let's see. His original deal, he signed to a 6-year, $43.5 million deal to take over the program back in December of 2021. So let's see, 2022, 2023, he's had 2 seasons. First one was not good. Last year was much better. So I guess they feel like they're moving in the right direction, and they're willing to pony up to make sure they keep Venables under contract for an extended period.
But did they need to go that far? I mean, they talk about being proactive and judging by what the market will bear, and I guess you're worth what somebody will pay you. But good grief, here's a guy who's lost both bowl games he's been to at Oklahoma. He's 16-10. I don't know that there were a lot of people clamoring for him as a head coach to pull him away from OU.
Mm-hmm.
Why not wait at least another year just to see what he's going to do? I mean, if he falls flat on his face in the SEC this year and goes 0-8, what are the Oklahoma people going to say?
I mean, that ain't going to happen, though.
I don't think so either, but you don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of football, Clemson has signed up to play East Carolina in 2029. Tigers will play East Carolina in 2029 at Death Valley on September the 1st, so make your plans now. I imagine for TV purposes, you can probably put that in the early window. Of course, with the ACC network, considering how badly they need Clemson for the night games, they might put that in the nighttime window. Probably be an 8 o'clock kickoff. Go ahead and plan for an 8 o'clock kickoff, September 1st of 2029, Clemson and East Carolina. Newberry today announced the promotion of Jay Snyder to the position of head baseball coach. So they moved quickly to replace Russell Triplett, who is now at the Citadel. Jay Snyder, associate head coach at Newberry, been with the program since 2008 and was promoted to associate head coach in 2014. He has been the team's third base coach. So congratulations to him. He gets a chance. And, of course, I'm sure Russell Triplett would tell you that Jay Snyder and his other coaches all had a major role in the success that they had in recent years, and he's been there a long time.
Yeah, so it's interesting when we were chatting with Russell last night. He said one thing about, because you asked him if he was at a point where he could discuss his staff, and one thing he said he wanted to make sure he did was get Citadel people who understand the school and understand what they've been through and what the kids go through in terms of the military side of the college, and then also being an athlete. So you would think that's part of the reason that maybe they had to go a different route in terms of their coach at Newberry, because he's not going with Russell down to the Citadel.
A couple of other things as we catch up on some of the top things that have caught our interest. And, of course, you can't get through a week without something regarding the ACC versus Clemson and Florida State and vice versa. Leon County Judge John C. Cooper has formally denied the ACC's motion to dismiss the Florida State lawsuit in Florida.
I'm stunned.
Cooper sent his ruling out in an email Friday morning, had a little tomahawk on the email, opening the door for simultaneous lawsuits to take place in both Florida and North Carolina. So this lawsuit action lives on between the Seminoles and the ACC and the Tigers and the ACC. Also today, South Carolina's outstanding catcher, Cole Messina, named a second-team All-American by Baseball America, and a well-deserved deal. But, with today's NIL world, I mean, if you're Cole Messina, now I don't know when he'll be drafted. What, second round, third round, fourth round? I don't know what he'll be pegged at as far as the signing bonus. But with NIL, I mean, could he not come back for another year at South Carolina and maybe get as good a deal and enjoy another year of college baseball, unless he feels like at his stage and his age, it's time to move on to the pro ranks. Though don't they say that catchers kind of move up faster through the pro ranks than any other position?
I would think so, and he's being projected. Some of the mock drafts have him as early as a second-round pick. Outside of just getting additional money, possibly by staying in school another year, I'm not sure he can improve his draft status all that much.
What would South Carolina fans be willing to pay 1 year for Cole Messina to come back? Considering, I don't know if he's a second-round pick, of course, that signing bonus in the second round, that's still usually in the millions, isn't it?
I was going to ask, is he $1 million catcher? I mean, is that where the market value is for catchers? We know what they are for quarterbacks, somewhere in the neighborhood of $2-3 million. So, I mean, where would Cole Messina, because he's as good a catcher in college baseball as there is. Whew. And the way he controls the run game and also can obviously hit the baseball, I mean, he would be a huge addition. And, when we were talking to Coach Maneri the other night, and I asked him about Ethan Petrie coming back and how good a recruiting job that was, this would be another one if they can convince him to stay.
All right, here's another story of NIL interest, as I think, these kind of stories I believe we're going to see more and more of. So I'm not pointing fingers here, because this story is about a company I used to work for, and they were good to me, but I'm not pointing figures. On3 NIL did a report saying that according to Learfield's latest NIL report, because Learfield has gotten into the NIL business, athletes earned $13.6 million in cash and trade value from sponsorships in 23-24. Learfield also reported $19.4 million in sales of college-branded NIL merchandise, a 111% year-over-year growth. Okay, so, that all sounds good. However, there was another report attached to this by a gentleman named Zach Soskin, who is identified as an athlete advocate and a brand builder. And he said in his post above this story, Learfield charged a ton of collectives more money for using their own school's logo than they generated for that collective's athletes. Learfield has spent years diverting money that could have gone to athletes back into the athletic department. Don't let them fool you. That was his post. So all I'm pointing out here, when it comes to money, and it comes with this big money like this, I mean, there's going to be so much nitpicking back and forth from different angles, people taking shots at you, people making claims, making claims that they've done this, then people taking shots at you for whatever reason, whether it's envy or they've got some additional information that, you're not sharing. So I just thought I'd bring that up as another thing, another item, another type of story that I think we're going to see played out here time and again through this NIL era that we're now deeply into.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, every avenue possible to raise money and pump money in, and whether anything that we read is accurate or inaccurate, it's buyer beware, as best we can tell.
Yeah.
Trust your sources.
Well, and I think, too, it's another case where you got, people trying to make money on the outside off of NIL. Yeah, they're trying to help the athletes make their money, but you know what? They're going to get their cut as well.
Exactly.
Whether it's a big operation like Learfield or a small agency representing some hotshot player, they're going to try to get their cut as well. Okay, we'll be back here on Sports Talk. Don't go away. All right, right, we're back with you, Sports Talk, on a Friday night heading into the weekend. Mike Morgan, always on the move. Sometimes he's with us on Thursday. Sometimes he's with us on Friday. Sometimes he's with us on Tuesdays. That's why he is Mike Morgan on the move. He's sort of like that, you go to the arcade, they have that game, what is it, the mole game, where you try to hit the mole?
Like a mole.
Pops up here, pops up there. That's Mike. He pops up here, he pops up there, he pops up here. He is brought to you by State Farm agent Gary Patterson. For 35 years, Gary's been serving the real estate needs from Lugoff to Lexington, Columbia to Blythewood. Your auto, home, life insurance, and business insurance can all be handled by Gary, who spends countless hours helping South Carolinians with all their insurance needs and making a difference in the community. Go check out GaryPatterson.net today, and he'll go over the best plans for you and your family. That's GaryPatterson.net.
Brought to you by Love Chevy. Act now for spectacular savings on the best selection of new Chevys. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
There he is over there. There he is over there. Hit him over here. Mike Morgan, the mole, on the move. Good evening.
Good evening, Donkey Kong. How are you?
It's pin the tail on the donkey. You ever play that? Did you ever play pin the tail on the donkey?
When I was like 5 at a birthday party, I believe.
Well, isn't that still isn't that a popular game for drunken college students to play? Maybe.
I don't think many college kids are playing pin the tail on the donkey, Phil. I think your age demographic is you're a little out of your depth there.
Ain't no question.
You and the college kids not seeing eye to eye.
Well, I know I played pin the tail on something when I was in college. Might not have been a donkey. Hello.
I think that was in Myrtle Beach, actually, but that's a whole other story.
So, College World Series, Championship Series.
Yeah,
Surprise. You got two SEC teams facing off.
Well, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I think you and some other folks asked me, who do you think the favorite is? And these have been my two teams since the Field of 64 came out. And it's very rare that you get those two right, because usually there's it's a little less chalkish than football and sometimes basketball is. But I thought these were the two best teams all along, and they really have showed that throughout the tournament. I was a little bit nervous for A&M, with the injury to Montgomery, who's basically their best player. But they haven't missed a beat, and these are the two most complete teams. And if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be the SEC's 10th title in the last 15 Omahas. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, the thing about the SEC, if this were the original SEC winning all these titles and making that kind of claim, I get it. But this isn't your grandfather's SEC. I mean, this is your kid's SEC. They've taken in all these teams now, and they're SEC teams, but see what I'm saying? They weren't born SEC teams. They were adopted as SEC teams. I guess you love your adopted kids as much as you love your the kids you birth, I guess. Tell me about that, Mike.
Well, first off, those 10 titles I referenced, none of them are the newest blood.
None of the adoptees.
Well, yeah. Now, Carolina came in 92. I don't think you would dare tell the Gamecock fans tuning into your show, which probably comprises about 65% of your audience, that they don't count as SEC teams or SEC champions. I mean, they're without question an SEC program.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 of the last 15, it still holds up. Those are all original SEC plus Carolina. Mm-hmm. Arkansas hasn't won one of these things.
See, and Paul Feinbaum said in 1992, why do you want to bring South Carolina into the SEC? South Carolina will never contribute anything in a positive way to the SEC. I'm just saying.
You remember what Paul Feinbaum said in 1992?
Absolutely. It was that created quite the stir in our state. Were you in our state in 92?
No.
Where
I
were
was
you
not,
in 92?
Gosh, 92. I was in high school. But my first job, as a true paid employee, I guess, was in Columbus, Georgia, and the SEC baseball tournament got its one and done in Columbus in '97. Was also the home of the SEC women's basketball tournament.
Oof.
Was also the home of Olympic softball. And they managed shortly after to lose all three and never get any of them back. But I remember Paul hosting the afternoon show there. My boss came in and had the sports page in his hand. And he was all fired up about something. And I said, I already read the Columbus Ledger-Inquirer. He goes, no, Mike, this is the Birmingham paper. I said, well, why are you reading the Birmingham paper? He said, because Paul Feinbaum just trashed our beloved city of Columbus and said we should never host another SEC baseball tournament. And the way you find Columbus, Georgia, is you follow the smell.
Oh.
He said, I want you to go after him for the next 3 hours. And I said, but then you're just giving it attention. Like, that's kind of what a shock jock wants. And I've been on the Paul Feinbaum show. I know Paul fairly well. I like Paul personally.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, Paul was not the TV personality that you see today. He was a columnist for the Birmingham paper. I'm not sure if he even gotten into radio yet. And was very controversial because he was a very strong opinion, very critical of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised, to bring it back to your original point, that in 1992, Paul figured, okay, new blood in the SEC, I'm going to write a scathing article about South Carolina.
No, he probably wanted Florida State. He probably wanted Florida State at that time when they were.
Well, so did the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
you know that story, right?
Refresh me.
Okay. So in 91, 92, when they were looking to expand, their golden goose was supposed to be Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And Florida State, many people with the university were all in. Like, this is a grand opportunity to go to the best conference in the land, and we're kind of a true SEC football type program anyway, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one Bobby Bowden who said, why would I want to go and play that schedule? No, thank you. I'll just stick with where I'm at, and we'll do the ACC, and we'll go ahead and be very happy in that conference. That's the reason why Florida State is now in a lawsuit to get out of the league. That is the reason why Florida State was not in the SEC in 1992. It's because Bobby Bowden knew it would be more difficult to win a national championship in the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? He made the right call because
he was right.
He dominated the ACC
right.
and got everything. That's why, with Clemson's situation, and I know they're looking at it financially and feeling like they're getting the short shrift, and same thing with Florida State. But, I mean, I've always compared it when you talk about the SEC and you talk about the ACC when it comes to football in particular. I mean, I've always compared it to the SEC being like South Chicago and the ACC being like Beverly Hills. I mean, the point is it's a lot easier if you're a Clemson to make a run through the ACC than it will be if you join the SEC or even if you decide to join the Big Ten. Clemson's in a great spot from a competitive standpoint right now. They can continue to dominate the league and not have to play, at least publicly, the big pay-for-play game that so many other schools are very openly playing to attract major talent. Clemson can still get good players good enough to win where they are without having to show their hand, so to speak. Other schools don't mind. Other schools don't mind letting you know, hey, we're going to pay this quarterback X millions of dollars, and we're going to give this guy, this number of millions of dollars.
All right, since you've opened this can up, hold off all further questions about Omaha, the Braves, anything else, because this, to me, is a hugely relevant conversation. As you know, J.C. Sherbert and I do a national college football podcast every week, J.C. and Morgan. We invite your audience to tune in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you we have broken this down.
Well, by the way, this is a national
Yes.
show too. We're on the internet, so we're international. We're worldwide.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Worldwide.
Very true. My
anyway,
guess is you spend a little more time on the in-state matters than we do, and that's why we respect you.
We have not been following the what's it called, the Euro Cup. We have not been following that. I can promise you.
Well, you're doing the 2%ers a disservice, but we'll cater to them another segment. I want to make sure we finish this. I want to make sure we finish this up.
All right.
Because this is very important, because it's going to affect one of the primary schools you cover on a day-to-day basis sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've talked about it. I know you have very great sources over there in the upstate.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question that Florida State and this is a day-to-day thing. It's all
Mm-hmm.
The story never stops. They are doing everything in their power to get out of that league. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything you said, it makes a lot of sense. You did gloss over the fact that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be, at some point, generating about an extra $40 million a year in revenue
Mm-hmm.
than their ACC and Big 12 counterparts. And therein lies the biggest reason why, yes, it would behoove Clemson and Florida State to stay where they are and pile up more wins and participate perhaps in more championship ceremonies. But it's pretty hard to continue to get to that point if you're that far behind financially. And so I believe, and you know this, Phil, there were people in the state of South Carolina, we don't need to get into names, that were trying to act as if they had the inside source, and they reported it 3 years ago. It's done deal. Clemson's leaving. And then 2 years ago, done deal. My source just told me. And it never happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept – the people that I talked to knew about that contract, that television contract by an employer I'm pretty familiar with, that it was ironclad. But I'm here to tell you the people I talk to now, and I know some fairly high up Florida State people as well, that they've done the math. And even if it costs them millions and millions and millions of dollars to get out, that long term it's the right play. And long term, it just seems to me that I don't think the ACC is going to have Florida State and Clemson in that league unless something dramatically changes in the next couple of years.
I mean,
do you disagree with
no,
this?
no, I do not. I do not. But Jim
Okay.
Phillips yesterday said the following. He said, we're going to fight it with every effort that we can.
Sure.
With what has been agreed upon twice, the grant of rights deserves to be executed, and so we have taken that position. It's damaging to the league. It's harmful to the league. This is a beautiful league that's been around a long time, 70 years. Sounds like Trump.
Yes.
This is a beautiful league. It's been around a long time, 70 years, and it's meant a lot to this part of the country and to college sports. And now it will mean a lot to California, Northern California. And the success that this league has had, the opportunities this league has had for young people. I'll stand up against any league about what is delivered for young people. So we're going to fight. I'm going to fight, and the courts will ultimately decide. And we believe that everybody knows what was in that contract back then, and it was celebrated, and people were excited. A new network with ESPN. We just lost Maryland, and it was a chance for unity and togetherness and the rest of it. And there was a unanimous acceptance of this is a great deal for the ACC. And that has changed in the minds of a couple, referring to Clemson and Florida State. So that is the commissioner's position. And, I mean, you're right. You know, I guess Clemson and Florida State can spin themselves to the breaking point to get out and feel like they're going to make it up somewhere else, whether it's in the SEC or the Big Ten. I mean, are you saying that that's the approach, that they're willing to spend whatever it takes, both in terms of fees and the penalties, to get out of it, knowing they can or believing they can make it up in some other league?
As best I can tell from people that I trust, and I'm not trying to – again, I'm not the guy trying to break headlines. The headline's already been written, so this is not me breaking a story here. The headline's already been written. They are determined to get out, and I just feel like and Jim Phillips, everything he said is what you expect the commissioner of the ACC to say. And he's doing everything he can. I mean, all you have to do is look at what happened to the Pac when they lost Southern Cal, Oregon, and then eventually Colorado, and then it just completely imploded. That's the fear, obviously. There's rumors around there that are also that Virginia and North Carolina are looking to go to the SEC. Like, there's a lot of things going on. But legally, Florida State and Clemson have done everything imaginable. Now, Florida State has been more out in the open. They have been very just completely clear about the fact that they are doing everything in their power. I think Clemson, and again, I know you follow this as well as anybody, I think they have been a little more hush-hush about it, if you will. But that doesn't mean they're not doing everything in their power. And watching Florida State to kind of go first in the deep end of the pool, and if Florida State is successful at doing it, well, now all of a sudden that's a problem. And so it's kind of like, you know, you're in a relationship, you're living under the same roof, and one person wants out and one person wants to keep it together. And you because of certain financial arrangements, you're both on the mortgage, what have you, on the mortgage, and you decide, okay, well, let's just, even though we're together, we'll date other people, but we'll live under the same roof. How often does that work out, Phil? Not a whole heck of a lot. A lot of awkward conversations at the kitchen table. You know, could you pass the salt? Sure, anytime, you dirty slut. I mean, that's not the kind of stuff you want. That's not the kind of stuff that you want. I'm sorry.
I don't think we can have that kind of language on this family show.
I know. Well, so thankfully, it's a primetime show outside of the Disney hours. But, no, I mean, in all seriousness, like, clearly, it's absolutely evident that you have programs that are desperately trying to get out. And I don't think when you're that determined to get out, I understand the only reason they're still in is because the contract was that good, was that secure. I won't bore everybody with why that contract was agreed upon way back when, but you had the launching of the ACC network. You had it was good to have security to know that, you know, you weren't going to have a Texas Big 12 situation. There was a lot of things going on at that time. It made sense. But the landscape, ever changing in college sports as we know it, right? It is one constant day of flux after the next. The landscape has gotten to the point where those two obviously want out. And if you obviously want out and you're willing to spend millions of dollars or lose millions of dollars, however you want to look at it, to get out of it, I just don't know how you can withstand that. I just don't. And again, this is a problem that Greg Sankey doesn't worry about because nobody wants to leave the SEC. People want to get in it. Nobody wants to get out of it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get out of the Big Ten. People want to get in it. Nobody wants to get out of it.
Yep.
The ACC has a problem because its two premier programs in the sport of college football clearly want out.
And we got to get out of this because we're running short on time, my friend, but great stuff as always. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
Enjoyed it,
Thanks,
guys.
Mike.
Take care.
As always, Mike Morgan bringing some heat tonight on the ACC and Clemson and Florida State.
Silly me, I was going to ask him why he thought the ACC wasn't competitive at the College World Series.
Never were going to get to that part. I was going to ask him about the Braves pitching staff. We'll be back.
Last throw, big guy.
Come on, baby. I need me a giant bear.
I got this. I am the target. Ben, throw. Oh, well, look who won a giant bear. That's a grizzly.
Oh, Mama's baby bear.
When you join the South Carolina Education Lottery's Players Club, you get way more than you expect. More chances, more wins, and more surprises.
Yeah, he's had all his shots. Just don't look him in the eye.
Join the Players Club at seeducationlottery.com because more happens here.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 5-9 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax-deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
George Bryant for Tsunami Bar Sports, our inventor, David Abernathy, has always said Tsunami Bar technology allows us to take the training to the grass. Now I know through my sport of golf that natural agility can be converted to athletic ability. And why is this, Tsunami Robbie?
Transferring the training to the grass. This may be the most undervalued characteristic of the Tsunami flexible bar technology. The Tsunami bar action loads and unloads at the concentric and eccentric transition points. This is what we call reversal forces, and the Tsunami bar is the only bar and training device that I know of that can train these reversal forces adequately at speed.
Hey, this is Phil Kornbluth. The Tsunami Bar is a terrific training device, whether you're working on your fitness or your golf game. It's convenient, it's easy to use, and you won't feel beat up afterwards. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today. Thanks again to Mike Morgan. Great insight from Mike. You hear him here on Sports Talk. You hear him on the Chief Sports app. You hear him and see him on ESPN. He is Mike Morgan, a man on the move. Okay, he's been hanging. He won't drop. He is he's consistent in that manner. He will not let go of the phone. Gamecock Larry.
58 minutes so far.
Gamecock Larry. Tried to outlast you. Can't outlast you. What's going on?
I just want to wish all my Gamecock fans have a good weekend. I want to speak to Mr. Phil.
Yes.
But Monday afternoon, don't put me on in the first minute, put me on the second. Well, give me at least 4 minutes. I got something to tell the Clemson and Gamecock fans.
Well, you got 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes, Larry.
I ain't got time now. I'm gonna do it Monday. If you will. Now, don't let me think I can tell you what to do, 'cause I can't. But you're the man. I can't tell you what to do. Just give me a little bit more time Monday when I finish this up. But I'm going to shock the Gamecock Nation and the Clemson Nation. I got together, and I got something to let the fans know. Old Gamecock Larry, they think he's crazy. He's old. He got dementia. He can't remember nothing. But I sat down and I figured back, wait a minute, did you know how the chicken curse started with the Gamecocks? We had his chicken curse put on us.
I think you put it on them.
Oh, no. I know. I'm gonna tell you about this chicken curse, and I got a book that I can show you. A chicken curse.
Didn't they build Williams-Brice Stadium, or back then Carolina Stadium, on some ancient Indian burial grounds, and some chief put a curse on the Gamecocks? Isn't that the story?
No, there was a doctor, a Clemson doctor, and a Carolina doctor. They was friends. They got together and they was drinking one night, and they said, "We gonna build us a." No, I started to tell you the whole. Monday I got
Save
to tell
it for
you.
Monday. Anticipation. The anticipation will get us through the weekend. All right, Larry. Thank you very much. Can't wait to hear that rest of that story, as Paul Harvey would say. And we'll be back.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 on this Friday, heading into the weekend. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Josh Cohen wishing you an outstanding weekend ahead. Enjoy yourself. Remember, turn before you burn. Which reminds me, turn before you burn. Yeah, it used to be a thing on the radio. Back when AM radio, the disc jockeys and the rock and roll or whatever you were listening to, and have a little jingle, turn before you burn. Hear it down at the beach all the time. So
about every 30 minutes.
Pretty much.
So.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And make sure, if you're looking for a place at the beach, that you give Jimmy Smith a call at James Smith Real Estate, 843-237-4246. Jimmy will make sure you don't get burned by some inflated prices that, just will not fit your budget. He'll take care of that. He'll work with you and find exactly what you need to fit that budget and to fit the size of the crowd you're bringing down. Because, when people go to the beach, usually they got what? Maybe 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 people coming with them, maybe more. So sometimes you need something really big or something a little smaller. He'll find exactly what you need at the right price, and you can look up for yourself at pauliesvacationrentals.com to see some of the properties they have available. Pawleys Island, it's a great place. Jimmy Smith is a great man. 843-237-4246, 843-237-4246 for your perfect beach getaway. When you talk to Jimmy, be sure to ask him about his days as an outstanding running back at Andrews High School. You don't really have to ask; he'll tell you. But if you do ask, he'll be certain to tell you about it. Tell you about the time they beat some team from Florida, and he ran up and down the field on them. Coming up in about 10 minutes or so, Jeff Owens in the fast lane tonight as we go racing at the New Hampshire Speedway up in the Northeast. And then Birdies, Bogeys, and Biceps brought to you by Tsunami Bar Sports with George Bryan. Tonight's special guest, Rob Bradley, the new men's golf coach at South Carolina. So we have a couple of comments from our feed on Facebook. A couple of folks have reached out to us with a question and a comment. One comment comes from Doc, who says, Lord have mercy, can Larry at least keep his teeth in until after the nightly phone call? Just funning there, Larry. Just funning with you. Okay, don't take it personal. Chris asked the question, do you really believe that Dabo will sign off and go into the SEC? Just like Bobby Bowden, why do we need to have an SEC schedule? I repeat myself in case you're wondering. With my computer, I don't know about your computer, but you get notifications on your computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of mine pop up in the bottom right corner, and they block things I'm trying to read. That's why I have to, shut them and go back to what I'm reading and shut them and go back to what I'm reading. Do you have that problem?
No, I just turn all my notifications off.
Oh. I hadn't
That's
thought
how you
about
solve that
that
problem.
I hadn't thought about that. Well, I like to be notified. Of course, this is the same computer that on its own changed to the Central Time Zone 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago on me while I was at Clemson. Remember that?
Yeah, that was fun.
All say. That's what they all say.
I mean, that's the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm looking at my clock, and it says it's 5 o'clock, but it was actually 6 o'clock. And somebody, I think the Chinese did it, or the North Koreans.
Or maybe
somebody
you did it. Maybe you did it.
I didn't do it.
Maybe you did. Maybe you just don't remember.
I had no reason to change my clock to Central Time Zone.
Well, as you're getting older, that kind of stuff
What
happens.
are you implying?
I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying that sometimes we do things we
I don't think
remember.
I'm older. What makes you think I'm getting older?
The gray hair.
I think I've had that for a long time. Wow. That's no indication of age. Do you see anything on this body, this face, this body that indicates aging? I don't see it. Everything still looks youthful as I see it. Huh? What do you think, Chris? You're looking at the video.
You're only as old as you feel, Corn.
Well,
but to answer Chris's question, though, further, to get back on point, let's assume for a moment that they do get out of the ACC. Where are they going?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to have some place to go.
Exactly. We have not heard from the SEC nor the Big Ten, at least publicly, and I get that. And I'm sure there are overtures being handled back channels and the like. But we've not heard from either one of those conferences saying, you know what, Clemson, you've got a landing spot. We want you here.
Well, to go
Florida
back,
State, you've got a landing spot.
To go back to Chris's question, not you, Chris on the who asked the question. I mean, Bobby Bowden had a heck of a lot of power in the early 90s at Florida State.
Sure.
I mean, like, enormous power. And I guess if he told the athletic department, hey, we don't need to go to the SEC, stay in the ACC, they listened. This is a different age, and the schools are facing different dilemmas and different issues. And I'm not sure that, despite the success that Dabo Swinney has had, I'm not sure he carries that same kind of power and weight with the Clemson administration. Yes, they'll listen, but they're going to make the decision that they think is best for the overall athletic program, not just the football program. But, I mean, and, of course, the football program, I get it, the football program is the most important thing up there, and it drives it's the engine that drives everything. But as Mike pointed out, and as we well know, if you're going to if other leagues are offering basically twice the money, if you're able to make twice the money from the TV deals that those leagues have compared to where you are now, you're eventually going to fall well behind in the money race. Now, unless Clemson boosters want to make up that difference like SMU boosters have done. That was one thing I was going to say to Mike.
I don't know that Clemson has boosters like SMU boosters. I'm not sure there's any school in the country that has the kind of Dallas oil money that we obviously are seeing being pumped into SMU.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Clemson people love nothing more than their football program. I mean, nothing more than their football program. And so I think they would dig extremely as deep as necessary to make sure that their football program remains among the national elite in one way or another.
All right, with that being said, back to your original point about Dabo maybe not having the same pull that, say, Bobby Bowden had back in the early 90s because it's a different time, and I would agree with you. But hypothetically, if Dabo went in and they were on the verge and they were ready to make the move out of the ACC into the SEC, and if Dabo walked into the office and said, look, if we go to the SEC, I'm out as football coach, you don't think that'd carry any weight? You think they'd still say, well, sorry, Dabo, we're moving on?
Well, first of all, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that would ever happen. I mean, Dabo,
I don't either.
Dabo's not going to, come across looking like he's scared to coach in the SEC. And like he always says, those decisions are made above him, and he stays out of them. So, all right, we got to get to the recruiting report here before we get too far behind because I got a lot to get to. And then maybe a quick call, and then Jeff Owens is coming up. Recruiting report brought to you by Seawells. And with the fall not too far away, I know it doesn't feel like it right now, fall will be here, which means a lot of special events that needs the very best in the catering business. And Seawells, they are the folks to handle it for you at your location or at their beautiful facility on Rosewood Drive across from the fairgrounds. For more information, go to their website, SeawellsCateringSC.com, or just give Cal a phone call at 803-771-7385. And don't forget, next Tuesday through Friday, the daily luncheon buffet from 11 till 2 for only $14.50. So last night after we left you, South Carolina got a commitment from defensive end Jaquavius Dodd, 6'6", 225 of Eastside in Taylors. He's a very athletic defensive end, also plays tight end, and he's also on the basketball team, and he runs track. When South Carolina offered him several weeks ago, they immediately moved into the prime position for him. Coach Sterling Lucas has known him since well past last summer and made the official offer to him back in May. And so Dodd immediately put the Gamecocks there at the top and made his commitment last night official. He had 53 tackles and 13 sacks last season. He was scheduled to visit Virginia Tech this weekend. He chose the Gamecocks over the Hokies, Virginia, and UConn. He took officials to Virginia and UConn earlier in the month. Hammond School tight end Mike Tyler taking his fourth and final official for the month this weekend as he goes to LSU for the second time in the month. He was there for an unofficial on June 11th. And the Tigers have started to recruit him very strongly. That goes back to the spring when they came in and watched him in one of his spring practices. He's also been to West Virginia. He's been to Duke. He's been to NC State. South Carolina had been a major player. Of course, the Gamecocks have gone through 3 tight end coaches during his recruitment. And of late, Tyler said there hasn't been a whole lot of communication between him and the Gamecocks. So he's going to wait and see what happens there. He said he was a little bit surprised at the way that kind of has fallen off, but he said his family and Shane Beamer, they felt like it was best to wait to see if there's a better time to schedule an official visit. And he said there's a chance that will happen in the fall. So right now he's kind of looking at those other schools more than South Carolina. This weekend at South Carolina, the Gamecocks have the following official visits scheduled. Committed defensive tackle Caleb Williams, linebacker Donovan Darden, defensive tackle Eric Thomas, defensive end Bryce Davis, committed defensive end Anthony Addison, safety Kendall Daniels, committed receiver Jaden Sellers, committed offensive tackle Shed Surratt, quarterback Cutter Woods, committed safety DeMarcus Leach, and defensive end Zay Hardy, a former Gamecock commitment who's in junior college and might just jump back into the Gamecock class. He did take an official visit to Arkansas earlier this month. Some visits of other Gamecock targets this weekend. Cornerback Onis Konanbani to Tennessee, defensive tackle Bryce Jenkins to Tennessee, safety Lagonza Hayward to Tennessee, defensive end Jared Smith, Southern Cal, safety Jadon Blair to Penn State, offensive tackle Juan Gaston, Oregon, defensive end Isaiah Gibson, Oklahoma, offensive tackle David Sanders to Ohio State, wide receiver Winston Watkins, Ohio State, linebacker Jaden Breaker, NC State, center Isaac Souls, NC State, receiver Malik Clark, NC State, offensive tackle Jalen Gilchrist, Maryland, and I mentioned Mike Tyler, LSU, Jonte Gilbert, safety, Georgia State, cornerback Shamari Earls, a commitment to Georgia, and defensive tackle Kevin Wynn, Florida State. Clemson targets visiting this weekend. LSU, Anquan Fagan, safety. Bryce Davis, defensive end, who's at South Carolina. Receiver Samari Reed at Penn State. Offensive guard Max Buchanan at Penn State. David Sanders, Ohio State. Offensive tackle Mario Nash, Mississippi State. Linebacker Kamar Archie, Michigan. Safety Jordan Young, Michigan. Offensive tackle Hardy Watts, Michigan. Receiver Cortez Mills, LSU. Cornerback Gregory Thomas, Florida State. And defensive tackle Elijah Griffin, Southern Cal. Upcoming commitment announcements. Cam Strong, the cornerback from TL Hanna, announcing tonight at 8. A.J. Brand, quarterback athlete, safety from Irmo, announces on Sunday around 1. Offensive guard Dontrell Glover, USC target, announces on Monday. Tayshawn Alston, USC target, defensive end, announces on Tuesday. Clemson target safety Anquan Fagans announces on the 29th. And Gregory Thomas, Clemson target cornerback, announces on June 30th. Keyshawn Henderson of J.O. Mann, wide receiver, announces July 4th. Jadon Blair, USC target safety, on the 5th. Isaac Souls, USC target center, on the 18th. Cortez Smith, USC target offensive tackle, on the 20th. Bryce Davis, USC Clemson target defensive end, on the 20th. And Lagonza Hayward, USC target safety, on the 27th. River Bluff receiver Stephen Collier committed to East Carolina. USC offered long snapper Kyle Farrow of Heartland, Wisconsin, and that is a scholarship offer, not a PWO. USC made a PWO offer to defensive tackle Savion Drayton of Nation Ford. USC offered 2026 safety to Marion Watkins of Northwestern and 2028 defensive end Ismael Schieffer of Loganville, Georgia. And let's see if there's anything else here I want to mention. I think 2026 receiver Donovan Murph of Irmo was offered by Florida. And Tennessee transfer left-handed pitcher Wyatt Evans, who's from Greenville, J.O. Mann, committed to USC. He did not pitch this year at Tennessee. He was not on their active roster, and he missed all of 2023 with an injury, and in 2022 he pitched out of the bullpen some for the Vols. So basically, the last 2 seasons he has not had a chance to get on the mound. So see what he can do for the Gamecocks. Okay, there you go with recruiting, brought to you by Seawells. We'll talk NASCAR with Jeff Owens coming up after the break.
Major Billy Downer here from the Department of Natural Resources, and DNR is excited to announce the implementation of Go Outdoors SC, a new online licensing and boat titling system that you can access right from your phone. Through this new system, customers can purchase their hunting and fishing licenses, renew their boats, apply for lottery hunt opportunities, and complete electronic harvest reporting requirements. For more information, visit Go Outdoors SC at your local app store.
Relax this summer with a promotional rate on select travel purchases with your Founders Federal Credit Union credit card. Now through August 31st, get 6.99% APR for 6 months on qualifying purchases, including airfare, hotels, restaurants, and cruise lines. Don't let interest rates slow you down this summer. Visit foundersfcu.com/travel to learn more. Not a Founders member yet? Founders has the financial tools you need and the personalized service you deserve. Stop by an office or visit foundersfcu.com to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. On March 1st, 2025, the promotional APR will revert to the effective APR as previously disclosed. Call 800-845-1644 for details about credit costs and terms. Membership qualification required.
You're listening to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. We're back in a moment.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's CORBETT. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Buggity. Let's go racing, boys. Let's go racing, boys. New Hampshire.
Let's go racing, boys.
They don't sound like NASCAR fans in New Hampshire. Welcome Jeff Owens into the fast lane. You ever talk to a native New Hampshirean about NASCAR? What do they sound like?
They talk like they're from Boston. So it used to be always fun when we would go up there. We couldn't understand the word they said, and they couldn't understand us. And it was always a good time. But there's a lot of, believe it or not, there's a lot of race fans in New Hampshire, and they usually come out for the races up there.
Yes, they do pack the place. Interesting racetrack. Would you say it's one of the flatter tracks on the circuit?
Yeah, I would say so, Phil. It's probably the flattest track on the circuit other than Martinsville. It's a mile, kind of like Phoenix, but a little bit more flat and shaped a little bit more like Martinsville. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get your car to turn in those corners, and as a result of that, we see a good many spin outs and wrecks and stuff. So the races there are at least usually pretty eventful.
Go back to last week at Iowa, and I thought it was an excellent race. I like that short track. I like the way they can move on that short track, the way they can go 3 wide. And, I mean, I thought the racing was pretty good. The finish was kind of anticlimactic, the way it happened after the restart. But for the most part, I thought we had some good racing.
Yeah, I agree, Phil. I thought it was really good. It's rare to see that kind of 2 and 3 wide racing on a short track like that, and they were able to do that all day. You know, and I think they have the perfect recipe. Not only was it a good short track, but the asphalt was wore out and it was chewing up the tires. And we've seen in the past that's what makes a good race. Bristol was a fantastic race because of that. We saw some of that in this one where they're having to be careful with their tires. You saw guys going with 2 tires, some with 4, and it just, you know, it mixed it up, and it made guys have to race and find ways to get around each other. I thought it was a thrilling race, and I thought it was a great win by Ryan Blaney, particularly, you know, that's where he and his dad sort of grew up in the Midwest in that area. They had a ton of family and friends there at the racetrack, and I thought that was really cool to see him win that race in front of somewhat of a hometown crowd like that.
Jeff, I asked Josh Harris from Darlington earlier in the week because of how good the racing was at Iowa and with the packed house there. Do you believe Iowa is going to get a permanent slot on the schedule moving forward?
I think so. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't bring it back after what we saw last week, and it is certainly more competitive than a lot of your bigger tracks, particularly some of your mile and a halves. They had a great crowd there. That is a underserved market, I think, in the Midwest. You know, they go to Kansas, but you really don't have another race except for the Chicago street race. I don't know that really counts. This is a perfect grassroots short track type of race in a section of the country where they have a lot of fans. So I definitely think they should come back. No question about it.
In the Fast Lane with Jeff Owens here tonight on Sports Talk. And, Jeff, I know it's a silly season when NASCAR tries to start tinkering with the rules a little bit. They announced earlier today that there's going to be a change to the starting lineup, and I'm not so sure it's a bad thing. According to jski.com, rather than having the final round speeds determined first through 10, the drivers from Group A are going to get the outside rows, and Group B will get the inside rows 2 through 5, with the fastest 2, obviously, qualifiers on the front row. Good move, do you think, by NASCAR?
You know, it's worth a try. You know, they've been tinkering with qualifying for years because, quite frankly, it's just not very exciting. It's you know, it's a little bit better than the old single lap qualifying runs they did. At least sometimes you get track cars out there together and stuff. But yeah, I'm fine with that. I think anything to mix it up and possibly make it a little more interesting is fine. I mean, you know, qualifying don't matter a whole lot. It does a little bit on some tracks, but, you know, you see the fast cars overcome a bad qualifying run in most races. So, yeah, sure, why not? Let's give it a try and see what happens.
What do you make of the news coming out yesterday that Gene Haas is going to hold on to one of the Stewart Haas Racing charters, presumably, I guess, for himself to be able to run? Is he going to manage that team? And if so, who do you think he might put in that driver's seat?
Yeah, I think what he's going to do, basically the story behind that was, you know, he had 4 charters. They thought he was going to sell all 4, and he wound up selling 3 and keeping 1. But I think the story behind that, he owns Haas CNC machines. He's the guy that sort of invented that, and pretty much every race team in the sport uses that equipment manufactured by his company. So it benefits him a great deal to stay in the sport with a sponsor. So I think he's going to have a couple of Xfinity teams. So, you know, that's fine. The guy's been around a long time, and it's kind of good to see him stick around. But, you know, there still won't be any more Stewart Haas racing. So that's still disappointing.
That is. It looks like Chase Briscoe is going to be moving to Joe Gibbs to replace Martin Truex, from what Christopher Bell told everybody. We got to run. We got to run. Have a great weekend. Be back.
4. Straight down the middle. It went straight down the middle. Then it started to hook just a wee bit. And that's when my caddy lost sight of it. That little white pellet has never been found to this day. but it went straight down the middle.
All right, time for birdies, bogeys, and biceps here on Sports Talk, brought to you by our good friends at Tsunami Bar Sports. And our most goodest friend, our goodest of all friends, as I butcher the English language, our most goody friend, George Bryan III, is on the tee. George, welcome in. How are you?
Oh, could not be better. I sit here overlooking the 18th green at Salina Golf Club, and this is member guest weekend, our very first, and we're still in preview play, but tell you what, we got the festivities going on, and hey, what's so cool about this time of year is we still have time to get in at least 9, if not more, and I just love our summers in South Carolina.
Well, my feelings are hurt because I'm neither a member nor a guest at Salina. This must change. I mean, as Lou Holtz, was it Lou Holtz who said, who was it that said any golf club that would have me as a member is not one I'd want to join, or something like that?
Oh, Phil, you will have the shot. You'll have your shot, and there'll be a category. You can establish the course record for your very special exempt category. And that's what everybody in this world wants. They want the right category and all exempt. We don't want conditional or an asterisk by it. And we wanted to wait till we had all 18 holes open, and it was right before we let you take your swing and your shot. But it's just around the corner. We hadn't technically gotten 18 holes open until last weekend, and you know, it's really good. It's a brand new course. We still have some construction to do, and like I said, you'll have your shot.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Before we get to your guest, let me hit the leaderboard at the Travelers Championship, which, of course, is an elevated tour event, so there's no cut, and there's $20 million at stake. And Tom Kim, 62-65, 13 under. Colin Morikawa, 11 under. Akshay Bhatia, 11 under. Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler, 10 under. Sungjae Im, Shane Lowry, Justin Thomas, they're 9 under. And Tony Finau's in their group at 8 under. And some others, we've got Ricky Fowler having a good tournament, 7 under. Will Zalatoris is 4 under. Lucas Glover, 70-67. He's 3 under. Jordan Spieth is 1 under. So there you go, George. That's what it looks like there. But we want to make have plenty of room here for our special guest. He is new to the state of South Carolina, and thus he is new to birdies, bogeys, and biceps here on Sports Talk.
And it is quite the privilege. We've got a brand new USC. Well, we got a brand new college coach here in South Carolina. We got a great state, for junior golf, but also college golf, and we need to welcome in yet another world-class coach. And I don't want to take any more time introducing him. I got inspired by Randolph, and he said, hey, let's get it up. Let's get him on the tee. Let's get the facts out there. And he also said, I hope you're prepared, which, Phil, I'm never prepared. I just like to swing at it, take a rip at it, look at the target and go. And this is ours. So let's welcome in Coach Bradley, Coach Rob Bradley. And
hey guys,
welcome.
How you doing?
Let's tee it up, Coach.
Thanks for having me on.
And we know you are in transition. I had a talk with you on the road, couple of talks. You are traveling around doing recruiting, but welcome. And what part of the world are you in on your way to South Carolina?
I actually am in Columbia right now. Just did a couple-day recruiting stint up at the Western Junior, and my wife and I came down to Columbia yesterday, and we've been house shopping for the last few days. But so it's been fun, and I'm ready for her to pull the trigger on one of these houses so I can get back to work.
Quick question from me: does a golf course look for a house on a golf course?
We've looked on a couple golf courses. We've kind of just been looking all over the place and kind of getting a feel for the area and kind of what we want to do. But we've looked on a couple golf courses, and we saw a bunch of places today, and we're trying to get it figured out here in the next couple days.
Gotcha.
Well, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about yourself. What I'm learning about, well, we've Phil Kornblut has had this segment for a lot of years, decades, and we have followers. We have golf historians, connoisseurs. We got all ages, but there are a number out who really have put some pressure on us, Phil. Just so you know, they want to know about our new coach, and I like to start with tell us about yourself. And you mentioned wife. Why not? Let's start there.
Yeah, wife. I've got 2 kids. My son Cole played for me at Purdue, and he's kind of playing in the professional golf ranks now, trying to get things figured out. And then my daughter Wesley, who just got married a few weeks ago, and so yeah, we I played college golf at University of North Carolina, and turned pro after school, and kind of played everywhere except where I wanted to play, which was the PGA Tour, and did the whole mini tour thing, and played the Korn Ferry Tour for 7 years, and was fortunate enough to play in a couple U.S. Opens, and played with a lot of really good players. Just never kind of got over the hump, and luckily Scott Schroeder gave me a chance to start coaching down at North Florida, and we had a nice little run down there. He's done such a great job with that program down there, and next thing you know, a South Carolina alum, Jay Sewell, hired me at Alabama. I think probably a lot of that came from my relationship with his brother David, and the Sewell family's obviously been a pretty big part of South Carolina golf, with all 3 of those guys playing here, and I know they love the program and are always talking a lot about it. And but I went to work with Jay. We had a phenomenal team with Justin Thomas and Trey Mullinax and Corey Whitsitt and Bobby Wyatt, just a ton of really good players. We basically just had to get them to the course on time, and they were probably going to get it done. But I think they won the last 7 tournaments that year, including SECs and the national championship, and that provided for me an opportunity at Purdue to be the head coach, and was there for the last 11 years before coming to Columbia. But I'm fired up about it.
Well, I tell you what, I like when you mentioned the Sewells. I would say, as far as the seed that of junior golf, and there are other names we can throw: Roundtree, Lathrop, and I'm going to leave others out, but Jackie Sewell is absolutely legendary and has had significant influence on the Bryans. I know that for a fact, and so I'm glad to hear you mention all those names. Now, talk a little bit about you. You didn't give us the background on your wife now, and we had in our brief exchange, I was quite intrigued with some things that you mentioned about her.
Yeah, my wife played college tennis at NC State, and she's kind of been really into athletics her whole life. She coached college tennis for a little while at North Florida and Stetson, and her tennis background kind of got her into the pickleball scene. I know that's been pickleball's been kind of gaining more and more popularity, and she's playing a little bit of senior pro pickleball right now. So she's a competitor. She always has been involved with all our teams. She'll bring the guys over, and especially the ones that think they're good at ping pong, and she'll normally take care of them in ping pong. But yeah, she's about as competitive as they come too. So we everything we do around the house usually involves some sort of competition.
Hey, I like that. I know. So your thoughts, you come into South Carolina. I'm not sure you're going to share all your strategy, but talk a little bit about what your vision is and a little bit about your strategy, what's important. Where do you start? Where do you see the program taking off? I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think you always start in your home state. anytime you take over a program, you got to evaluate the home state. You got to start in the home state. I mean, South Carolina has had, so many good players, and it's such a great golf state that obviously I think you got to start there and then kind of work your way out. I know Kaylin's done such a great job on the women's side. She's had some great international players. I think we'll do a little bit of that as well. I kind of did some of that at Purdue, but really it's just about getting out there and putting in the work and finding the right guys and investing, everything you have in them. And, that's kind of my plan moving forward. Just, working as hard as I can and just helping the players get better. And I think recruiting is definitely a huge piece of the puzzle, for any program, but, really just investing in your players and putting in the work and helping them get better. That's kind of what it's all about for me.
I got a question there. A lot of different strategies as far as developing, there's kind of a two-part question. How many of the juniors in this day and age do you see that, really are just wonderfully skilled, and they already have what it takes? You mentioned names. They are the world's best, so you are very familiar with just how good the world's best are, and match that against the juniors you're recruiting, is your strategy to try to develop players or manage what you have, Coach? Do you like to convert?
I think it's a little bit of everything, but the really good teams, aren't turning average players into great players. I mean, you have to be able to go out there and recruit and get great players on your team, but there is definitely an aspect of helping those players get better. I mean, it's the part of their life from 18 to 22 where they usually know a lot at that age, and coming alongside of them and helping them learn a little more and navigating the golf course a little bit. I mean, today's day and age, everybody has teachers, coming in, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm just, I certainly can help them with golf swing if they want it, but for the most part, I just like to get with their teachers and have an understanding on what they're trying to do, and then going from there. But just helping them on the golf course, try and make less mistakes. Really, I think, at that age, you kind of feel like you can do everything, and you kind of make a lot of silly mistakes. I think that's kind of the difference between college players and PGA Tour guys. They just can't afford to make. I mean, you heard it earlier when we were reading out that leaderboard. There's not a whole lot of separation at the top between a lot of really good players. So, if you can figure out how to help those guys, keep them from losing a shot here or there, you can make a pretty big difference. So, really just on the course management side, trying to help them.
Hey, well, speaking of help, you took a little bit of a respite from a tiny one recruiting last week. Talk to us about you took a time out and had a very special gig, one that by the way, Phil, just so you know, I've gotten fired by all three of my children, and no longer do I try this. Talk about what happened last week, Coach.
Yeah, I went out with my son. He was doing PGA Tour Americas qualifying, and even really before I had kind of planned on doing that with him, and the timing wasn't great because I was basically accepting the job on the way to the airport. But I went out to Canada with him to Victoria Island and caddied for him in the PGA Tour Americas Q School. And, that was obviously anytime you can go out and do something like that with your son, that's something I'll cherish. And he didn't play that great, but we still had a good time. I guess I just needed to caddy just a little bit better.
Hey, that is a job that somewhere around, I guess it was somewhere about the stage of where you are, I earned being fired by both boys, and just about in situation, and I know I deserved it. I just, my nonverbal communication, I choke like a dog inside, and they see it. I keep my mouth closed, but my body language just gives it away. So I'm a choking daddy caddy when I'm caddying for my kids. And we can laugh about it now, but it wasn't so funny in situations. I mean, I could not get yardage right. I couldn't read for whatever reason. It was just overwhelming for me. And that's why
I was lucky enough to coach him in college too, so I've been kind of around him a lot and around his game a lot, and so, I think I've gotten past the choking daddy part, but it's still always tough because you're pulling, even for my players though, I'm pulling so hard for them to play well, but it seems like sometimes when you're out there, with your son and it's his profession, you're just pulling really hard for him to do well and kind of make it to that next level. So it was tough to see him miss by 3. So.
Well, the landscape of college golf has turned, and your national championship at Alabama, where you were part of, it was match play during that era. And what are your thoughts on that? Phil and I have discussed it. We've talked to numerous coaches, and I'd like to know your ideas because it's stroke play. I mean, most everything is measured on stroke play. Now now we got a lot of the conferences deciding their championship in match play, and now obviously the national championship. What are your thoughts? What is your take, your strategy as it pertains to that format?
I really think that if you look at it, it's been great for the sport. It's been great for, college golf, having it on TV, those matches when I was at Alabama, that's probably as much fun as I've had coaching, being a part of the match play and the different swings and, guys going up and then losing leads and different things like that. I mean, it is really exciting. It's really fun. I think that, the best team doesn't always win, in match play. I struggle with that a little bit. I think, 4 rounds of stroke play, the best team's going to come out on top maybe a little more often. But when it comes down to the entertainment value, being on TV, having that head-to-head match, the final match, it's really exciting for these guys. And it's just a lot of fun. I think it's done a lot for the sport. So, I'm kind of all for it. You do have to. I think you do have to try and play match play at some point during the year, and you have it in the SEC championship too. But I think doing a little bit in practice and things, and getting the guys used to it, so when they do get in that situation, it's not the first time out.
I like the way you handled that, answered it. Now, do you, when it comes to the events, do you look for a few more events to put on the schedule in order to keep your team in touch with that format? How does that work for you?
We've done a little bit of everything. We've had years where we've played a regular season match play event and years that we haven't. I feel like, we hadn't at Purdue, we did make it to the national championship 4 times in the 10 years, and we weren't that close to making match play. I think here at South Carolina we'll be in a little different situation and can maybe prepare for that a little differently. But adding a regular season event I think is a good thing, but also doing some stuff in practice and doing it, getting ready for that SEC championship, because the Big Ten didn't have match play in their conference championship like the SEC does. So, we'll prepare for that a little bit for sure.
Speaking of conferences, size it up. What about the SEC? Talk a little bit about where your heart, soul, and mind is about being back in the SEC.
Yeah, it's the greatest conference in college golf. It's not even close. I mean, it is an absolute shark tank. So I'm a competitor. It's one of the big reasons I took this job is you can't get in a conference where you need to be more competitive, and it's a professional challenge for me to be in a conference like this, and just really going to get to work and do everything I can to kind trying to keep moving up the ranks. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking at, it's if you like competition and you like golf, I mean, the SEC is where it's at.
Well, it's a privilege having you in town and looking forward to a lot more. Thank you for joining us on this Friday night. I know you're trying to find a place, and I'll let you get back to that search, and I do hope you have a beautiful weekend. Phil, I'm gonna let him get back to it. Did you have anything you wanted to tighten up with?
No, just a great conversation. Welcome to South Carolina, Coach. Looking forward to following your career with the Gamecocks and having you back on here with us on a regular basis. We love talking golf here on Sports Talk, and nobody does it better than George. So thank you. Anytime you want to come over to have you told him about Scramble yet? Because I do hold the course record at the Scramble. Have you told him about that yet?
Well, I got to tell you, hey, he'll want to hear all about it. It was just 6 holes, but we've had some tour players out, and it took me a while to get them out there, Coach. It's just a tip and putt, but it's like a putt on steroids. And you know how these great players take pride in their wedges. Well, I can tell you, this is all you want to tote with a wedge. And it took me months to get Wesley out there, but once I did his first visit out, I left after an hour and a half, and when I came back 3.5 hours later, he had a couple other tour buddies out there because he figured it out. But it is a little bit of a challenge. The Scramble is a challenge, so we'll get you out. We'll introduce you.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. Then I'm gonna have to come out for sure.
Well, hey, thanks a lot for joining us, and you have yourself a nice weekend. Looking forward to more.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
I'd love
Coach.
to come on anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Well, I tell you what, that was a lot of fun, and there's absolutely no question, Phil, we're gonna have you at Salina Golf Club. Let you go ahead and get your category course record. And I thought that was spectacular. Hearing mixing it up. On,
George, can I ask a favor? I know what I want to do when I grow up and I finish, playing in radio. You know what I want to do? I want to be the guy, and maybe you need this at Salina. I want to be the guy that drives the cage tractor that picks up the range balls. That's all I want to do. I want to get in that little tractor with the cage and go drive around picking up range balls. Now have you got an opening for that at Salina?
Well, now you just flipped my switch. What do you think I do out here? What do you think I came to this place for, Phil? Are you kidding me?
I mean, seriously, that's a job I've always wanted.
Well, why do you think they hired me? Why do you think George Wesley and Greg brought me out? That's my job, man. My job. Mine.
So you're not giving it up. You're not giving it up.
Well, hey, no. We'll have a little qualifier. We'll have a qualifier. And we're getting up there in age where we're not once where we were, but once we can always be. So about once a week, I need a day off. So maybe on my day off, I'll let you have that cart.
Just give me a heads up.
There you have it. Well, man, I enjoyed it. Looking forward to more. Till next week, tee 'em high, but shoot 'em low.
Thank you, George. Birdies, Bogies, Biceps, brought to you by Tsunami Bar Sports. And Chris Bergen, you could certainly drive the range golf cart to pick 'em up machine.
I call dibs.
Oh, absolutely. I was just wondering how much that George would charge. How much would he pay you an hour for that?
Do you aim at the guy when I'm on the practice tee? Like if I'm at a driving range and the guy's out there picking up the balls, I mean, I'm aiming at him. Do you ever aim at him?
Well, no, because I won't hit a moving target. It's hard enough to hit a golf ball straight as it is. Try and hit a moving target's nearly impossible.
You have a great weekend, my friend.
Thank you, guys. You do the same.
Josh, you do the same. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. See you Monday here on Sports Talk.